This week was the client process. If you only caught part of it and you'd like to catch more, go to jupiterjoe.com. You can click on our podcast section. You can make an appointment and you can get a copy of Joe's free book, The Retirement Know-It-All, as well as making a free 45-minute consultation. Any questions? Give us a call, 561-743-0999.
Hey, my true oldies listeners, John Tesh here with some intelligence for your retirement this time. When you're looking for a retirement advisor, you know trust and experience are two big qualities to look for. And as it turns out, my friend Jupiter Joe Thomas possesses both of these. Whether you're in retirement or looking to retire, I want you to give local expert Joe Thomas a call. Here's the number, 561-743-0999. Or, even simpler, you can go to jupiterjoe.com. Mention my name, John Tesh. You'll receive a free copy of Joe's book, Retirement Know-It-All. Great book. Call 561-743-0999. Or remember, go to jupiterjoe.com. That's jupiterjoe.com.
Planning for the future should not be painful and needs to be discussed. From health, family, finances, allow qualified professionals to aid in your planning. Luhu Advisors have been serving South Florida for over 30 years. A licensed real estate broker, insurance agent, assisted living administrator, and certified senior advisor, Paul Solomon is the most qualified and well-rounded advisor for any task. Specializing in real estate, long-term care, life insurance and annuities, social securities, government benefits, and senior housing. Luhu Advisors. Let us help you.
Coffee News is a fun, family-friendly weekly publication provided free to restaurants, coffee shops, and waiting areas for customers to enjoy. Grow your business today through the power of effective, affordable advertising. Coffee News is an active marketing medium specializing in the ongoing weekly promotion of your business. This builds awareness for your company so you become known as the leader of your industry and develop brand awareness so people think of you first when they want your services or products. Maximize your visibility and achieve outstanding results. For more information on Coffee News, contact Sunrise Coffee News at mail.com or give them a call at 954-951-7877.
The following programming is furnished by you and your doctor.
The content, information, and opinions expressed during the related show are those of the show personalities and guest alone, and not those of Vic Canellis Media Group, its parent, affiliates, or stations. VCMG Live is not responsible for any content, information, or opinions expressed. User bears full responsibility for their reliance on such content, information, or opinions.
Amp2.tv presents You and Your Doctor, teaching you to live a longer and healthier life. Proudly sponsored by All County Healthcare, where people are the heart of our business. All County Healthcare is a Medicare certified agency where one call will service all your home care health needs. For more information, call 954-717-7027 or visit our website, allcountyhealthcare.com. Now, let's get informed to living a longer and healthier life. Here is your host for today's show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of You and Your Doctor. Healthcare agency in Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade. I am your host. 7700 West Camino Real, Suite 200, and that's Boca Raton, Florida, 33433. Phone number is 561-869-6808. And the website, you're going to want to jot this down. It is www.umiamibrainhealth.org. And I'm going to read Dr. Galvin's bio. Dr. James E. Galvin is a professor of neurology, Also, the Neurology Cognitive Science Chief in Palm Beach and Broward County, the founder and director of the Comprehensive Center for Brain Health, director and principal investigator for Lewy Body Dementia Research Center of Excellence at the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. Welcome to the show, Dr. Galvin. How are you? Can you hear?
Good. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for coming to the show. Very impressive bio, I must say. Can you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about your experience, your education, training, and background?
Sure. So I'm a neurologist. That's a doctor who studies diseases of the brain and nervous system. But my particular area of interest is in healthy brain aging and memory disorders. So I focus solely on the clinical care of people who have memory complaints and doing research in trying to develop treatments to try to prevent people from developing memory disorders.
Can I ask, what is the age range of patients that you treat approximately?
Well, we see people of any age, but in general, most of my patients are older adults. So generally late midlife to older adults. So generally 50 to 55 and above. So patients, but we see patients as early as their late 30s or early 40s who have familial forms of disease, all the way to people in their early 100s who are exhibiting symptoms.
Okay. Now, would one need a referral to see you?
You don't need a referral. We take all forms of insurance, unless your insurance requires a referral, but we don't specifically require a referral.
Okay.
So we have a clinical practice and we have research projects, and so we offer two different types of assessments. The clinical practice, we wear our doctor hat, and people come in and we evaluate them and then we treat them. And the other way is we do research assessments, and those are no cost to individuals, and they are annual assessments. So we do very, very detailed assessments, and people can take that information back to their doctors. And their doctors then can act on that. So if you have a doctor and you like your doctor, we can do the research evaluation, and you can take that information to your doctor, and they can use that to manage your care. But we do the evaluation for free.
It's interesting. So is there a particular age that you would recommend where one should get maybe a baseline type of evaluation?
So almost all our projects are funded by the National Institutes of Health. And we're funded typically to see people who are somewhere between the age of 50, 55 and above. So there's no upper limit. It's never too late, but it's never too early, but it's probably better to be too early than to be too late.
I like that.
So for our research projects, we're looking for people who have no complaints, people who have subjective complaints, or people who have mild memory problems, so that we can understand what those problems are and what are the predictors of if they're going to get worse.
So, question, what is the difference between Alzheimer's disease and dementia? If you can give us a distinction on that, I would appreciate it.
Well, that's a great question, and that's a question I get asked often. So dementia is really more of a general term. It's describing a change in memory and other thinking functions. But dementia is not a diagnosis. It's a syndrome, a collection of symptoms.
Okay.
Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia. So you can think about dementia as the same way as car. Car is a general word that describes a vehicle with four wheels that usually uses gas, although now some use electric, to get you from one place to another. But there are lots of different types of cars, right? There's Fords and Chevys and Mercedes and Audis, but they're all different. Similarly, there's lots of different types of dementia, with Alzheimer's being the most common. About 50 to 60% of cases of dementia are due to Alzheimer's.
Okay. And is there a particular reason maybe why you got into this field? I was curious to ask you that as far as maybe background.
Yeah, so I've always been interested in being a doctor, and then I've been interested in the brain and how it works, and I was always a curious kid and got really interested in these type of things. But I guess from a personal perspective, So I grew up in a two-family house in New Jersey, like a lot of people who live in South Florida. I grew up in the
Yes.
Northeast. Um, and my grandparents lived upstairs and we lived downstairs, and it was very close to my granddad. And so when I was a junior in high school, he was driving me home from my swimming practice. I don't look very fit now, but I was much more fit back then. And so we're driving, and he made the slowest left-hand turn, and we got hit broadside. No
Oh.
one got hurt, but I remember asking him, "Is like, what happened?" And he said, "Oh, the car didn't turn the right way." I didn't think much of it at the time, because I was a kid.
Sure.
And about 2 months later, he was at work. He worked for Colgate Palmolive in Jersey City, and he fell off a ladder and broke some ribs. So he had to go to the emergency room. And so my grandmother went down to pick him up from the emergency room. And the doctor turned around and asked her, and she said, "How long has your husband had Parkinson's disease?"
Oh.
And she was like, "What are you talking about?" And he pointed down to my grandfather's hand, and he was doing this. And she had never noticed it. And I had never noticed. No one had noticed it because we didn't know what that was.
Sure.
And so then, the rest of high school and college, he slowly got slower and stiffer. As I entered graduate school, he started to have a little bit of memory problems. By the time I was in medical school, he developed dementia. And then when I was finishing my residency and into my fellowship program, he was having hallucinations, and he was reacting to the hallucinations. He got up, fell down, broke his hip, and then he died in the rehab hospital. So for me, this has not just been a professional activity, it's kind of been a personal battle, is to try to understand why these changes occur and what we could do to really do something about it. Because up until recently, we had very little to offer patients who were living with this disease and their families.
Well, thank you for sharing your personal story. That really shows me that this is a passion for you. And I know that patients are looking for someone who's passionate in what they do, and you've clearly demonstrated that. So thank you for sharing that information. Another question is, what is healthy brain aging, and how do you study it?
Yeah. So, people often wonder, is like, does everybody have memory problems? And the fact is that the answer is no. People can successfully age. The Alzheimer's Association throws out numbers that sound very scary sometimes. And so they'll say that, 6.5 million Americans have Alzheimer's disease. And at age 85, roughly 4 out of 10 people will develop disease. But if you flip that equation, that means that 6 out of 10 don't have Alzheimer's disease. And so by studying those 6 people out of 10 people who don't develop disease, what can we learn? And so the fact is that people can live into their 10th decade of life without any problems with their memory. So memory decline is not a function of growing old. People can continue to learn, increase their vocabulary as they get older. Now, you do things slower.
Sure.
As you get older, you do process information slower, but you're still able to learn things and carry out your everyday activities normally. When you can't do that, then something is causing it.
And would you say learning a new activity would be something that could be helpful for an adult, a senior? Helpful for the.
Absolutely. I mean, these are, I'll give you, I can give you advice, and it's common advice, right?
Sure.
We stay mentally active, physically fit, socially engaged, eat a healthy diet. I mean, these
That's
are things we've been telling people forever, but the fact is, those are the best ways to protect your brain. And the people who don't do those things increase their risk of disease, but also developing disease, those people don't do those things. So it's sort of chicken and egg, right?
Right.
One's causing the other, but having the disease also causes your disease to get worse. So it's a very difficult thing.
It's interesting because it makes me think of possibly people who tend towards the depressive side. Would they be higher candidates for this type of an illness, a disease?
Well, depression is a risk factor for developing Alzheimer's disease. And Alzheimer's disease, one of the symptoms is depression. So again, another
Wow.
chicken and egg
Right.
kind of question. And this is the goal of a lot of our research, to try to understand this. Because how can we address a problem if we don't really study a problem?
Now, are some groups of people at higher risk for Alzheimer's than others?
Yes, they are. So we know that age is one of the strongest risk factors. The older you are, the higher the risk. But age is not absolute. So there are people who successfully age who don't develop disease. Women seem to be at a little higher risk than men for Alzheimer's disease. Men are a little bit higher risk than women for Parkinson's disease. But we also know that African Americans, Hispanics, American Indians, Alaska Natives, and Pacific Islanders seem to be a little bit higher risk than European white individuals for developing Alzheimer's disease. And that may be due to a combination of more vascular risk factors and lower socioeconomic status in early life. So less access to care, less nutrition, and other sort of disparities that put them at higher risk in their midlife, which then puts them at a higher risk in late life. So it's not just because they're African American, it's because they have less access to things then that puts them at higher risk. So there's a lot of it's a very complex formula, but it appears that some groups are at a higher risk. People who live in rural areas seem to be at a higher risk than people who live in urban areas. That may have something to do with both socioeconomic status as well as exposures to farm chemicals and other types of things. So lots of differences in the way people live may put them at different risks.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what type of correlation between green spaces and I know that I saw something that you were talking about green spaces and how that would affect or not affect our memory. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting things on the both the built environment and the natural environment. So people who have lifelong exposure to more green space, so more trees, more green canopy, and who go to parks throughout their life seem to have healthier brains, so that the brains are bigger, and they seem to perform better on cognitive tests, pencil and paper tests. So they seem to have reduced risk. People who have less access to green space and parks and make less use of parks seem to have a higher risk of developing disease. And so that's a very, very interesting thing. It makes you think that we could potentially build sort of dementia-friendly cities in urban planning and change the way we think about how cities are designed by just planting more trees and having better park access for people.
I find that fascinating. In my mind, I immediately think of, is it because there's higher oxygen? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, but green spaces do provide higher oxygen nutrient. So it's just
one of the things we're doing is when people come in and do our research, we ask their address. We ask for their address at age 10, 25, 40, and 65, because we can actually use satellite imaging to find their green space exposure throughout their life and then plot it. And we hope to be able to answer some of those questions.
Wow, that is really fascinating. Dr. Galvin, why would somebody consider participating in research? Because that could be sometimes a little scary. Somebody feels like, well, what's going to happen, or why should I do this? Can you tell us why would somebody consider that?
Yeah, so without research, there are no medical advances. Now, there are lots of different types of research projects, right? So there's research that is very simple, like answering a survey. There's research that's more complex, like taking experimental medicine. And there's everything in between, right? So there are lots of different types of research opportunities, and that's how medical science advances. So if you're interested in finding out more, our website's here. We have lots of different types of opportunities. And again, it goes from everywhere, just answering questions on the internet, to coming in and sitting in group discussions, to having evaluations where you come in and get examined, to donating blood, to participating in a trial testing new medicines. But you don't have to do all of those things. You can choose different things.
Wonderful.
But it's very important to answer those questions.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, Dr. Galvin. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Thank you.
to what renowned pulmonologist Dr. Keith Robinson has to say.
Hello, I'm Dr. Keith Robinson, board-certified pulmonologist, medical director at Fusion Health Pulmonary Rehabilitation, and a board member with the American Lung Association of South Florida. We have exciting news for patients with COPD. We now offer IPV therapy at home, which has been demonstrated to improve airway clearance, decrease hospitalization, and improve quality of life of patients with COPD. Please call All County Healthcare for more information about this FDA-approved therapy.
For further information, call All County Healthcare now at 954-717-7027. That is 954-717-7027. Or visit our website at allcountyhealthcare.com. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Remember, All County Healthcare always puts the patient's needs first. You are listening to You and Your Doctor, Living Longer and Healthier, an informative show that helps you find answers to questions you always wanted to ask but did not have that somebody that could make a difference in your life. Call into the show if you have a question at 888-565-1470, and we will put you on the air to inform all our listeners. Now, back to our show.
Hi, everybody. We're back interviewing Dr. James Galvin right here in Boca Raton, Florida. The address is 7700 West Camino Real, Suite 200, Boca Raton 33433. You're going to want to write his phone number down because there may be somebody that your loved one or somebody that you're going to want to refer to him. And the number is 561-869-6808. And the website is umiamibrainhealth.org, and that is the Comprehensive Center for Brain Health. So thank you for coming back, Dr. Galvin. I'm fascinated with brain health. That, to me, is something I've always been interested in. And honestly, a little fearful, because I know my grandmother, towards the end, after my grandfather passed away, it was unreal. It was like weeks after he passed away, she started getting dementia. And I'm now talking to you, I'm realizing maybe, just her circumstances triggered it. I don't know. It's just definitely opening my eyes to how memory loss occurs and what we can do about it. So, Dr. Galvin, can Alzheimer's disease be cured or prevented? That's something a lot of people want to know.
Yeah, so, the gold standard of what everybody wants to do is to cure disease.
Yes.
Cure is hard.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to cure things. I can say as a doctor, cures are hard. We cure very few things. We strive to cure things,
right? But
in truth, we cure very few things. We treat a lot of things. We can treat them very effectively, but we cure few things. I would like to focus, and the focus of our research really is, can we prevent it? In 1735, Benjamin Franklin said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yes.
And I think he got it right. If I could prevent you from getting disease, that's going to be much, much more beneficial to people than waiting for them to develop a disease and hoping that I can try to catch it in time to cure it. So a lot of our effort is, what can we do to make the best you that you can be and change the course of your health and try to prevent you from ever developing a disease. So I think prevention is really where most of the bang for the buck is going to be as we move forward.
Agreed. A question that a lot of people, I'm sure, would be curious about is, what role can supplements play as far as our brain health?
Yeah. So, there's lots of things out on the market and lots of commercials out there.
Right.
So there can be a role for some supplements if you truly are deficient in something. So in other words, for example, if you're a vegan, you can be very healthy, but vitamin B12, for example, is not very well sourced in many vegetable products.
Right.
So if you get a blood test and you're a little bit low on B12, you might need to supplement vitamin B12. If you're lactose intolerant, you're not taking dairy products, and you don't get out in the sun a lot, you might be a little bit low on vitamin D. So you might need a vitamin D supplement. But outside of that, there's really not a lot of need to take all of these supplements, because for the most part, your body doesn't need these things, and you just excrete them in either your urine or your stool. And so all of these memory supplements that are sold out there, they have lots of fancy commercials. They may have famous people advertising them and doing the commercials. But if you look at the bottle, they'll have all these fancy statements. They'll have little asterisks. And if you turn the bottle to the back, on the very bottom, all the bottles have two statements on them. The first is, these statements have not been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. The second one is, this product is not intended to diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure disease. Well, if it's not diagnosing disease, preventing disease, treating disease, or curing disease, what's it doing? And for the most part, that's making very expensive urine and stool. So I know that sounds terrible, but the fact is that it's really not doing a lot. So you should always talk with your doctor before starting a supplement. The other thing that's really important for the audience is that supplements can interfere with your prescription medicines. So if you're taking a blood thinner or an anti-seizure medicine or an antihypertensive medicine, those supplements can interfere with the action of your prescription medicines and reduce its effectiveness. So always talk to your doctor about anything you're taking over the counter.
Thank you for that. We're almost wrapping it up. We're almost done. I just wanted to say, if there could be one last piece of advice for laymen, people like us, what type of advice do you want to leave us with before we complete the interview? Is there anything that you'd want us to know as far as maybe prevention, or what are your thoughts?
My greatest piece of advice is that you're the best advocate for your own brain health. There are things you can do to build a better brain as you age, right? These diseases are not inevitable. We have a chance to change the course of our own brain health by exercising, by staying mentally active, physically fit, being mindful, exposing ourselves to green space, eating a healthy diet, staying socially engaged. We want to be able to promote our own health. We want to manage our diseases, working with our doctors to make sure that we do everything we can to reduce our risk. These are the things that we have control over.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Time goes so fast, but we have concluded the interview. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I know you have a busy schedule. Again, you can reach Dr. James Galvin right here in Boca Raton, Florida, 7700 West Camino Real, Suite 200. His phone number is 561-869-6808. And the website is umiamibrainhealth.org, and you can consider research and definitely look him up. Thank you again so much. It was a pleasure. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you for letting us share with you a longer and healthier lifestyle. If you have a doctor or are a doctor and wish to be on the show, call AMP2 TV at 866-244-5422, and we will put you on the air as soon as possible. Tune in next week for more information on living longer and having